Captain Edmund had sailed the seas for many years. He was a brave sailor with a heart full of adventure. Every morning, he would stand on the deck of his ship, the Blue Wave, and look out at the endless ocean. His crew respected him, and they always felt safe under his command.
One day, Captain Edmund and his crew were on a journey to find a hidden island. This island was said to have a treasure that no one had ever seen. The map to the island was very old and difficult to read. It had been given to Captain Edmund by an old friend, who whispered, "Find the island, Edmund. The treasure will change your life." The journey was not easy. The sea was rough, and the weather was often stormy. Huge waves crashed against the Blue Wave, making the ship rock from side to side. But Captain Edmund never lost hope. He would hold the map tight and say to his crew, "We will find the island, no matter what." One night, the sea was calm, and the stars were shining brightly. Captain Edmund sat on the deck, looking at the stars. He remembered his childhood, dreaming of being a sailor. He smiled and whispered to himself, "The sea is my home." Suddenly, a crew member named Jack came running to Captain Edmund. "Captain, there's something in the water." He shouted. Captain Edmund quickly stood up and looked over the side of the ship. In the moonlight, he saw something shiny floating in the water. "Bring it aboard," Captain Edmund ordered. The crew worked together to pull the shiny object onto the ship. It was an old chest, covered in seaweed. Everyone gathered around as Captain Edmund opened the chest. Inside, they found a beautiful necklace, a golden compass, and a piece of parchment. The parchment had strange writing on it. Captain Edmund looked at it closely and realized it was a clue. The clue said, "Follow the stars to the island of dreams. The treasure is guarded by the sea's protectors." The crew was excited. They knew they were getting closer to the hidden island. That night, Captain Edmund used the golden compass to navigate. He followed the stars, just like the clue said. Days turned into weeks, and finally they saw land. It was the hidden island. The crew cheered and hugged each other. Captain Edmund smiled and said, "We made it. Now let's find the treasure." The island was beautiful. Tall palm trees swayed in the wind, and colorful birds sang in the trees. The crew walked through the forest, following the map and the clue. After a while, they came to a large cave. "This must be it," Captain Edmund said. They entered the cave and saw a huge rock with strange carvings. Suddenly, the ground shook, and a voice boomed, "Who dares enter the cave of the sea's protectors?" Captain Edmund stepped forward and said, "I am Captain Edmund, and we seek the treasure to help those in need." The voice replied, "If your heart is true, you will find the treasure." The rock moved, revealing a hidden passage. The crew walked through the passage and entered a large chamber filled with gold, jewels, and ancient artifacts. Captain Edmund and his crew couldn't believe their eyes. They had found the treasure, but Captain Edmund remembered the words of the sea's protectors. He took only a small amount of gold and jewels, enough to help his crew and their families. As they left the cave, the voice said, "Your heart is true. Captain Edmund, the sea will always protect you." Captain Edmund and his crew sailed back home with their treasure. They shared it with their families and the people in their town. Everyone was grateful and praised Captain Edmund for his bravery and kindness. From that day on, Captain Edmund and the Blue Wave became legends. People would tell stories of the brave captain who found the hidden island and shared the treasure with everyone. Captain Edmund continued to sail the seas, always ready for a new adventure. Years passed, and Captain Edmund grew old, but his spirit remained young and full of life. He would sit by the sea and watch the waves, remembering his adventures. One day, a young boy came to him and asked, "Captain Edmund, can you teach me to be a sailor like you?" Captain Edmund smiled and said, "Of course, my boy. The sea has many lessons to teach. Always be brave, be kind, and never lose hope. The sea is our friend, and it will guide us if we listen." The boy listened carefully and started his training with Captain Edmund. They sailed together, and the boy learned everything about the sea and sailing. He looked up to Captain Edmund and wanted to be just like him. One sunny morning, Captain Edmund and the boy set sail on the blue wave. They were on a new journey, seeking new adventures and stories to tell. Captain Edmund knew his time was coming to an end, but he was happy. He had lived a life full of adventure, and now he was passing on his knowledge to the next generation. As the sun set, Captain Edmund looked at the horizon and whispered, "Thank you, sea, for all the adventures." He closed his eyes and smiled, knowing his legacy would continue through the boy. The boy sailed the seas, telling everyone about Captain Edmund, the brave sailor with a kind heart. The legend of Captain Edmund and the hidden island lived on, inspiring many to follow their dreams and seek adventure. And so the spirit of Captain Edmund remained in the hearts of all who heard his story. The sea was his home, and it would always remember the sailor who loved it so dearly. The end of one adventure was just the beginning of another, and the sea continued to welcome all who dared to dream.